My name is Alice, and I am 32 years old. I still remember my 20th birthday like it was yesterday. The day I discovered my parents had secretly rewritten their will to leave everything to my younger brother Marcus. The day I realized that 12 years of caring for my sick grandmother, sacrificing my social life and college dreams, meant nothing to them. The day I learned that the house I had been promised, the one my grandmother specifically wanted me to have, was being stolen from me. They had no idea that their betrayal would cost them everything they held dear. If you have ever been the family scapegoat, if you have ever sacrificed everything only to be cast aside, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button, and stay for a story about how I turned the tables on my family in less than 24 hours. Growing up in the Richardson household was an exercise in inequality. My father, Thomas Richardson, was a real estate developer who built luxury homes for wealthy clients. My mother, Patricia, managed his business operations and kept the family finances under tight control. On paper, we were successful, respected, comfortable. But behind closed doors, there was a hierarchy that had been established before I could even understand what it meant. Marcus, my younger brother by 4 years, was the golden child from the moment he was born. Everything he touched turned to gold in our parents' eyes. When he failed his classes, it was because the teachers did not understand his learning style. When I brought home straight A's, it was because I was boring and had no social life. When Marcus wrecked his first car at 16, Dad bought him a newer, better one. When I asked if I could use the family car to get to my part-time job, I was told I needed to learn responsibility by taking the bus. But the real turning point in our family dynamics came when I was 8 years old. My maternal grandmother, Eleanor Hastings, suffered a severe stroke that left her partially paralyzed and requiring round-the-clock care. My parents were faced with a difficult decision, an expensive nursing home, or bringing her to live with us. Nursing homes are depressing, my mother declared. Mother will live here. We will take care of her. By we, she meant me. Even at 8 years old, I became Grandma Eleanor's primary caregiver when I was home. I would help her with meals, read to her, keep her company while my parents worked and Marcus played video games in his room. As I grew older, my responsibilities increased. By the time I was 12, I was administering her medications, helping her with physical therapy exercises, and managing her daily routine. Alice is so good with Mother, my mom would tell her friends, as if this were some natural talent rather than a responsibility forced upon a child. She has always been so mature for her age. Mature was their code word for convenient. I was mature because I had to be. Because someone needed to care for Grandma Eleanor, and it certainly was not going to be my parents or Marcus. The only bright spot in those years was my relationship with my grandmother herself. Despite her physical limitations, her mind remained sharp. She would tell me stories about her youth, about the house she and my grandfather had built together, about the adventures she had before marriage and children tied her down. That house on Maple Street, she would say, her words slightly slurred, but her eyes bright. Your grandfather and I designed every room. We planted every tree in that yard. Promise me, Alice, that when I am gone, you will take care of it. Do not let them sell it to strangers. I promise, Grandma, I would say, not fully understanding the weight of that promise. She would smile and pat my hand. You are a good girl, Alice. Not like your brother. You have a heart. My grandmother owned that house outright, a beautiful craftsman's-style home in the historic district of our town. It was worth a fortune, easily over $1 million, and it was the crown jewel of her estate. My parents had always been interested in that property, dropping hints about how much easier her life would be if she sold it and moved in with us permanently with the proceeds going into investments they would manage. But Grandma Eleanor was adamant. That house stays in the family. And when I die, it goes to Alice. She is the one who has sacrificed everything to care for me. She told me this on multiple occasions, and she told my parents too. I remember being 16 and overhearing a heated argument between my mother and grandmother. Mother, you are being unreasonable, my mom had said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Marcus is your grandson too. Why should Alice get everything? Because Alice is the one who is here, Grandma Eleanor replied firmly. Alice is the one who has given up her teenage years to help an old woman. Marcus has not visited me voluntarily in months. That boy would not know how to show compassion if it bit him. My mother stormed out, but the matter seemed settled. The house would be mine. I held on to that promise through high school, when I turned down a full scholarship to a university 3 hours away because I could not leave my grandmother. I held on to it through countless nights of interrupted sleep, helping her to the bathroom or calming her when she became disoriented. I held on to it when my friends stopped inviting me places because I was always busy with caregiving responsibilities. This is temporary, I would tell myself. Someday I will have that house. Grandma Eleanor's house. And it will all have been worth it. But life rarely works out the way we hope. 2 weeks before my 20th birthday, my grandmother's health took a sudden turn for the worse. She developed pneumonia, and despite the best efforts of her medical team, her body could not fight it off. I spent her final days at her bedside, holding her hand and reminding her of all the happy memories we had shared. The house, she whispered on her last coherent day. You will take care of it? I promise, Grandma, I said through tears. I will make it beautiful, just like you wanted. She smiled, squeezed my hand weakly, and closed her eyes. She passed away peacefully the next morning with me sitting beside her. Her funeral was well attended. My grandmother had been active in the community before her stroke, and many people came to pay their respects. My parents played the role of grieving family members perfectly. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. My father spoke eloquently about what a remarkable woman his mother-in-law had been. Marcus looked appropriately solemn in his suit, though I noticed him checking his phone during the eulogy. I was the only one who seemed genuinely devastated, because I was the only one who had truly known her in those final years. After the funeral, my parents announced that they were planning a small family gathering for my 20th birthday, which was just 5 days away. We know this has been a difficult time, my father said. But we think Grandma Eleanor would want us to celebrate your milestone birthday. She would not want you to be sad. I appreciated the gesture, or so I thought at the time. Looking back, I should have been suspicious of their sudden concern for my feelings. My birthday fell on a Saturday. When I woke up that morning, the house was quiet. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to pick up some things for your party. Be back this afternoon. Love, Mom and Dad. I spent the morning cleaning and trying to shake off the grief that had settled over me like a heavy blanket. My grandmother had only been gone for less than 2 weeks, and the hole she left in my life felt massive. That afternoon, my parents returned with my Aunt Susan, my father's sister, and her husband Frank. They were both lawyers, which should have been my first warning sign. Why would we need lawyers at a birthday party? Happy birthday, sweetheart, my mother said, kissing my cheek. She seemed nervous, her smile too bright. We have a little family business to take care of first, then we will do cake and presents. We gathered in the living room. My parents, Aunt Susan and Uncle Frank, Marcus, and me. My father cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. Alice, as you know, your grandmother passed away recently. She had a will, and we have been reviewing her estate with Susan and Frank. I nodded, my heart beginning to beat faster. This was it. The moment when I would officially inherit the house on Maple Street. Your grandmother's will was complicated, my father continued. She had some unusual wishes that we have had to interpret carefully. Unusual? I asked. She told me exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to have the house. My parents exchanged a glance. Then my mother spoke, her voice gentle in a way that immediately put me on edge. Darling, we know your grandmother said things to you over the years. But you have to understand, she was elderly, often confused. Her stroke affected her cognition more than we realized. She was not confused, I said, my voice rising. She was perfectly clear. She wanted me to have the house because I took care of her. Aunt Susan leaned forward, her lawyer face firmly in place. Alice, your grandmother's actual will, the legal document she signed 7 years ago, leaves her estate to be divided equally between your mother and your Uncle James. The house is to be sold and the proceeds split between them. The room spun. That cannot be right. She promised me. Verbal promises are not legally binding, Uncle Frank said, not unkindly. What matters is what is written in the will. But I gave up everything. I was crying now, unable to hold back the tears. I turned down college. I spent 12 years taking care of her. She promised me that house. My father sighed. We know you sacrificed a lot, Alice. And we appreciate everything you did for Grandma Eleanor. That is actually why we wanted to have this family meeting. He pulled out a document and placed it on the coffee table. Your mother and I have updated our own will. When we pass away, you will inherit this house, the one we are living in now. We think that is fair compensation for everything you have done. I stared at the document, not quite processing what he was saying. You are giving me this house? But what about Marcus? Marcus will inherit the house on Maple Street, my mother said. We are purchasing it from the estate with some of the inheritance money. It is a better investment property, and Marcus has expressed interest in learning the real estate business from your father. Everything clicked into place. This had been their plan all along. Use Grandma Eleanor's money to buy the house she wanted me to have, then give it to Marcus. Give me their current house, which was worth less than half of Grandma's property, and call it fair. When did you plan this? I asked quietly. What do you mean? My father asked, though he would not meet my eyes. When did you decide to cut me out of Grandma's legacy and give everything to Marcus? We are not cutting you out, my mother protested. You are getting this house. After you are dead, I pointed out, which could be decades from now. Meanwhile, Marcus gets $1 million property now. He is not getting it now, my father corrected. It will be held in trust until he is 30. So in 6 years, I said. Great. That makes it so much better. Marcus, who had been silent throughout this exchange, finally spoke up. It is not my fault Grandma liked you better. Do not take it out on me. Something inside me snapped. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage. Liked me better? I was her caregiver for 12 years. You could not be bothered to spend 5 minutes with her unless Mom and Dad forced you. And now you are getting the one thing she wanted me to have. Alice, calm down, my mother said. You are being dramatic. Dramatic? I laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. I gave up my entire youth for her. I have no college degree. I have no career prospects. I have no social life because I spent every free moment caring for your mother. And this is how you repay me. Life is not always fair, my father said, his voice taking on a stern tone. You are an adult now. It is time to stop expecting everything to be handed to you. The audacity of that statement left me speechless. I had never been handed anything. Every good thing in my life I had worked for. Unlike Marcus, who had been given everything without ever having to earn it. I need some air, I managed to say, walking out of the room before I said something I could not take back. I grabbed my phone and went outside, sitting on the front steps of the house that would supposedly be mine someday. The house that was worth half of what I had been promised. The house that came with the condition that I wait for my parents to die before I could claim it. As I sat there, trying to process my family's betrayal, a memory surfaced. Something my grandmother had told me about 3 years ago, during one of our late-night conversations. Alice, she had said, gripping my hand with surprising strength. I need you to remember something. I have a safe deposit box at First National Bank. The key is hidden in my jewelry box, taped to the bottom of the top drawer. If anything happens to me, if your parents try to cheat you out of what is rightfully yours, everything you need is in that box. At the time, I had dismissed it as the paranoid ramblings of an elderly woman. But now, with perfect clarity, I understood. My grandmother had not trusted my parents. She had known they would try to manipulate her estate. And she had left me a way to fight back. I went back inside, ignoring my family still gathered in the living room, and went straight to my room. Tucked in the back of my closet was the wooden jewelry box my grandmother had given me on my 18th birthday. This was mine when I was young, she had said. I want you to have it. Remember, some treasures are hidden. I opened the box and felt along the bottom of the top drawer. My fingers found the edge of something taped there. I peeled it away carefully and found myself holding a small key with a tag, First National Bank, box 247. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my purse and car keys. I told my parents I needed to run an errand and left before they could ask questions. First National Bank was downtown, a 20-minute drive. I walked in with the key clutched in my hand, my heart pounding. I need to access a safe deposit box, I told the bank employee at the desk. She led me to the vault, verified my identity against the signature card on file. My grandmother had added me as an authorized user and left me alone in a small private room with the metal box. Inside, I found a letter addressed to me in my grandmother's shaky handwriting, a flash drive, and another legal document. I opened the letter first. My dearest Alice, ***, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and your parents have tried to steal your inheritance. I am so sorry, my darling girl. I wish I could say I am surprised, but I have known Patricia and Thomas for too many years to trust them completely, ***. 7 years ago, I wrote a will leaving everything to your mother and Uncle James. Your parents convinced me it was the fair thing to do. But 5 years ago, after watching you sacrifice so much to care for me, I wrote a new will. I had it prepared by a different lawyer, one your parents do not know about. This will leaves the house on Maple Street and the majority of my estate directly to you, ***. I never told your parents about the updated will because I wanted to see how they would behave after I was gone. Would they honor my wishes as I had expressed them verbally? Or would they choose greed over fairness, ***. Now you have your answer, ***. The flash drive contains documentation of everything. The new will, financial records, even some recorded conversations where your parents discuss their plans to redirect your inheritance to Marcus. I have also included proof that they have been embezzling money from my estate over the years, small amounts they thought I would not notice, ***. This is your ammunition, Alice. Use it wisely, ***. I also want you to know this. You owe them nothing. Not your loyalty, not your obedience, and certainly not your future. You have paid your dues 10 times over. It is time to live for yourself, ***. The house is yours. The money is yours. And if your parents cannot accept that, then they are not worthy of your love, ***. Take care of yourself, my darling girl. Make that house a home. Live the life I could not. And know that I am so very proud of the woman you have become, ***. All my love, ***. Grandma Eleanor, ***. I sat in that small room and cried, clutching the letter to my chest. My grandmother had known. She had seen through my parents' manipulation and had protected me even after death. I plugged the flash drive into my phone using an adapter and found exactly what she had described, a legally executed will from 3 years ago, witnessed and notarized, leaving everything to me. Financial statements showing withdrawals my parents had made from her accounts. And audio files, recordings my grandmother had made of conversations with my parents where they discussed their plans. In one recording, I heard my mother's voice. Once mother is gone, we will tell Alice the old will is the real one. She will be upset, but she will get over it. And Marcus will finally get what he deserves. My father's response, what about the house Alice is expecting? We will give her this house eventually. She should be grateful. It is still an inheritance. The casual cruelty in their voices made me feel physically ill. I returned home with the safe deposit box contents in my purse. My family was still there, now eating birthday cake in the dining room. They looked up when I entered, their expressions varying from concern to annoyed at my absence. Alice, where have you been? My mother asked. We have been waiting to do presents. I needed to take care of something, I said calmly. But I am back now. I sat down at the table, and they brought out presents, a sweater from my parents, a gift card from Marcus, some books from my aunt and uncle. Normal birthday gifts that seemed obscene given what I now knew. Thank you, I said, my voice flat. These are nice. My mother frowned at my tone. Are you still upset about earlier? Alice, you really need to move past this. We have been very generous. Generous, I repeated, setting down my fork. That is an interesting word choice. Do not start this again, my father warned. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. I have a recording I want you all to hear. Before anyone could object, I played one of the audio files from the flash drive. My parents' voices filled the room, discussing how they planned to manipulate my grandmother's estate and deceive me about the inheritance. The color drained from my mother's face. My father stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backwards. "Where did you get that?" he demanded. "Grandma Eleanor gave it to me," I said. "Well, she left it for me, along with some other interesting documents." I pulled out the updated will and placed it on the table. This is my grandmother's actual last will and testament, executed 3 years ago with a lawyer named Robert Morrison. In it, she leaves the house on Maple Street and 80% of her estate directly to Maine. The remaining 20% is split between Mom and Uncle James. Aunt Susan, ever the lawyer, immediately picked up the document and began reading. Her expression grew more serious with each paragraph. "This appears to be legitimate," she said slowly. "Thomas, Patricia, did you know about this will?" "Of course not," my mother said, but her voice was shaky. Mother had dementia. She was not competent to write a new will. "Actually," I said, pulling out another document, "this medical evaluation from 2.5 years ago states that she was of sound mind and fully capable of making legal decisions." The lawyer who drew up the will insisted on it. The room erupted in chaos. My parents were shouting. Aunt Susan was speed reading the will. Uncle Frank was asking legal questions. Marcus looked confused and angry. I sat calmly in the center of it all, waiting for them to exhaust themselves. Finally, my father turned to me, his face red with anger. "You cannot do this. That is our inheritance." "No," I said quietly. "It is mine. Grandma Eleanor wanted me to have it, and she made sure I would get it. We will contest the will," my mother threatened. "We will prove she was not competent." "You can try," I said. "But you should know that the flash drive also contains evidence of financial improprieties. Unauthorized withdrawals from Grandma's accounts over the past 5 years. Money you took without permission." My father's face went from red to white. "That was for her care. Was it?" Because according to these bank records, the withdrawals always seemed to coincide with Marcus's expensive purchases. His car, his spring break trips, his designer clothes. Marcus jumped up. "This is bull. You're just jealous because Mom and Dad actually care about me. They stole from their own mother to spoil you," I said, looking at my brother with a mixture of pity and disgust. "That is not love, Marcus. That is enabling." "Alice," my father said, his tone shifting to placating, "let us talk about this rationally. You are upset, understandably so. But we are family. We can work this out." "Work it out," I repeated. "The way you worked out Grandma's estate? By lying and stealing." "We did what we thought was best for everyone," my mother insisted. "You did what was best for Marcus," I corrected her. "You have always done what is best for Marcus. I was just the free labor. The unpaid caregiver. The daughter you could take for granted because I was mature and responsible." I stood up, gathering my documents. "I am going to contact Mr. Morrison first thing Monday morning. We will be filing Grandma's actual will with the probate court. The house on Maple Street is mine, as she intended. And I will be moving into it immediately. You cannot just kick us out of your grandmother's house," my mother protested. "I am not kicking anyone out. You do not live there. It has been sitting empty since Grandma went into the hospital. We were planning to renovate it before giving it to Marcus," my father said. "Well, those plans are cancelled." I headed toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and about the embezzlement? I am willing to let that go on one condition. You never contact me again. No calls, no texts, no showing up at my doorstep. You wanted Marcus to be your only child? Congratulations. Your wish is granted." "You cannot mean that," my mother said, tears streaming down her face. "Alice, we are your parents. We love you." I looked at her, this woman who had used me for 12 years and then tried to steal the only thing my grandmother had left me. "No, you do not," I said simply. "And that is okay. I do not love you either. Not anymore." I walked out of that house and never looked back. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up determined. I called the one person I trusted completely. My grandmother's lawyer, Robert Morrison. To my surprise, he answered on the second ring. "Mr. Morrison, this is Alice Richardson, Eleanor Hastings' granddaughter." "Alice." His warm voice filled me with relief. I have been hoping you would call. I assume you found the safe deposit box. I did. Mr. Morrison, my parents have been telling everyone that Grandma's old will is the valid one. They are trying to steal my inheritance. I expected as much, he said grimly. That is why Eleanor was so thorough in documenting everything. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? We need to file the actual will with the probate court immediately. Absolutely. What time? 9 a.m. And Alice? Bring everything from the safe deposit box. We may need all of it. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the house on Maple Street, sitting empty, waiting for me. Around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I got dressed, grabbed the keys to the house that my grandmother had given me years ago, and drove to Maple Street. The house was dark when I arrived, but even in the shadows, it was beautiful. A classic craftsman with a wide front porch, detailed woodwork, and the mature trees my grandparents had planted decades ago. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was stale from being closed up, but everything was as I remembered it. My grandmother's furniture, her photographs on the walls, her books on the shelves. I am home, Grandma, I whispered into the darkness. I am finally home. I spent the rest of that night walking through the house, remembering. The kitchen where Grandma taught me to make her famous apple pie. The living room where we would read together. The sunroom where she would sit and watch the birds. By the time the sun rose, I had made a complete inventory of the house. And I had made another decision. At 8 a.m., I called a locksmith. I need all the locks changed on a property, I told him. How quickly can you get here? I have a crew that can be there in an hour, he said. Perfect. Money is no object. I want it done by noon. Then I called a security company and arranged for a complete alarm system to be installed that afternoon. Finally, I called a moving company. I need to move, I told them. Today. I do not have much, just personal belongings from one house to another in the same town. By the time I met with Mr. Morrison at 9 a.m., I had already set everything in motion. You have been busy, he said with approval after I explained what I had done. I am not giving my parents any opportunity to sabotage this, I told him. That house is mine, and I am protecting it. He pulled out a thick file. Your grandmother prepared well. I have copies of everything. The will, medical evaluations, financial records, even a videotaped statement she made explaining her wishes. There is a video? He turned his computer screen toward me and pressed play. My grandmother's face appeared, looking frail but determined. My name is Eleanor Margaret Hastings, she said clearly. I am of sound mind and body, as confirmed by my physician Dr. Sarah Chen. I am making this statement to clarify my final wishes. She went on to explain her decision to leave the house and the bulk of her estate to me, citing my years of dedicated care and sacrifice. She detailed my parents' attempts to convince her to change her plans and her discovery of their financial improprieties. Alice is the only member of my family who has shown me genuine love and care, she said, looking directly into the camera. She deserves to be rewarded for her selflessness. Patricia and Thomas have had their inheritance. They do not get to steal Alice's too. I was crying by the end of the video, but they were tears of gratitude and vindication. We will file this with the probate court this afternoon, Mr. Morrison said, along with a motion to invalidate any other claimed wills. Given the evidence your grandmother compiled, I do not see how your parents can contest this successfully. What about the embezzlement? He frowned. That is trickier. The amounts are substantial, probably around $75,000 over 5 years. If you wanted to press charges, we could. I thought about it. Part of me wanted them to face legal consequences, but another part just wanted them out of my life completely. If they drop any claims to Grandma's estate and agree to stay away from me, I will not pursue it, I decided. Otherwise, I will file a police report. That is more than fair, Mr. Morrison said. I will draft a settlement agreement. By that evening, my parents' lawyer, my Aunt Susan, had called Mr. Morrison. After being presented with all the evidence, she had advised her clients to accept my terms. They are devastated, she told him, though whether she meant emotionally or financially was unclear. My client's terms stand, Mr. Morrison replied. Full relinquishment of claims to the estate, no contact, or we pursue criminal charges. The settlement was signed by the end of the week. The house on Maple Street was officially mine, along with nearly $400,000 in savings and investments my grandmother had accumulated. My parents and Marcus got nothing except the knowledge that their greed had cost them everything. For the next few months, I threw myself into making the house a home. I repainted rooms in colors I loved. I planted a garden. I adopted a rescue dog named Bailey, who became my constant companion. I also enrolled in online college courses, finally pursuing the education I had postponed for so many years. With no one to take care of but myself and with financial security for the first time in my life, I could actually plan for the future. The hardest part was not the practical aspects of my new life, but the emotional adjustment. For 20 years, my identity had been tied to my family and my role as caregiver. Now, I was truly alone, but also truly free. I started therapy to process the years of being the family scapegoat and to learn how to build healthy relationships. My therapist helped me see that my parents' treatment of me was not my fault and that I deserved better. You gave them 12 years, she pointed out during one session. You were not just a caregiver. You were a child forced into an adult role. They exploited you, then tried to rob you. Cutting them off was not cruel. It was self-preservation. About 6 months after moving into the house, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Marcus. Alice, asterisk. I know you do not want to hear from me, and I do not blame you. But I need to say some things, asterisk. I have been doing a lot of thinking since everything happened. For the first time in my life, I am actually having to work for what I have. Mom and Dad are not bailing me out anymore, partly because they cannot afford to, and partly because I think seeing you cut them off shocked them into realizing they screwed up. Asterisk. I am not writing to ask you to forgive them or to reconcile. I am writing to say I am sorry. You are right that I took you for granted. I never thought about what you were giving up to take care of Grandma. I just accepted that was your job, like it was no big deal. Asterisk. It was a big deal. You gave up everything, and I did not even appreciate it. Asterisk, asterisk, I am trying to be better. I got a job that is not through Dad's connections. I am paying my own rent. I am learning what it means to actually work for something. Asterisk. I do not expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what our parents did to you, and I see my part in it. Asterisk. I hope you are happy in Grandma's house. She would be proud of you. Asterisk. Marcus, asterisk. I read the letter 3 times, unsure how to feel. Part of me was touched that he had reached out. Another part remained angry at the years of being overlooked and undervalued. I never responded to the letter, but I did not throw it away either. I tucked it into a drawer, acknowledging it but not ready to engage with it. Time passed. I finished my online degree in social work, inspired by my years as a caregiver to help others in similar situations. I started volunteering at a senior center, providing companionship to elderly people who reminded me of my grandmother. I also began dating for the first time in my life. At 32, I had never had a serious relationship, too busy with caregiving responsibilities and too emotionally damaged by my family dynamics. But with therapy and distance from my toxic family, I slowly opened myself up to the possibility of love. His name was David, a teacher I met through the senior center where we both volunteered. He was kind, patient, and genuinely interested in who I was beyond my trauma. When I told him about my family situation, he did not judge or try to convince me to reconcile. Family is who shows up for you, he said simply. Blood does not automatically make someone worthy of your love or trust. 1 year after moving into the house, I invited David over for dinner. As we sat on the front porch afterward, watching the sunset through the trees my grandparents had planted, I felt something I had not experienced in years: contentment. This is a beautiful place, David said, his hand finding mine. It is, I agreed. My grandmother built it with love. I am just trying to honor that. I think you are doing more than that, he said. You are healing here. He was right. The house on Maple Street had become more than just property or inheritance. It was my refuge, my fresh start, my proof that I had survived my family's betrayal and come out stronger. Sometimes, late at night, I still thought about my parents and Marcus. I wondered if they had really changed or if Marcus's letter was just an attempt at manipulation. I wondered if my mother ever regretted choosing my brother over me, or if my father ever acknowledged that his actions had been wrong. But those thoughts became less frequent as time went on. I was building a new life, one where I was valued and respected. One where my boundaries were honored. One where I could finally breathe. My grandmother had given me more than a house. She had given me the tools to free myself from people who saw me as useful rather than valued. She had shown me that true love means protecting the people you care about, even after you are gone. 2 years after that terrible 20th birthday, I sat in the same house, planning my own 22nd birthday celebration. This time, my guest list included David, some friends from my volunteer work, and my elderly neighbor Mrs. Chin, who reminded me so much of my grandmother. No toxic family members. No guilt. No obligation. Just people who genuinely cared about me and whom I genuinely cared about in return. As I looked around at the house I now called home, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The years of sacrifice, the devastating betrayal, the moment of discovering my grandmother's gift, and the decision to stand up for myself no matter the cost. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was David, arriving early to help me set up. "Happy almost birthday," he said, kissing my cheek and handing me a bouquet of wildflowers. "I picked these from my mom's garden. She says they are supposed to represent new beginnings." I smiled, burying my face in the blooms. "They are perfect." As we set up tables and chairs in the backyard, the same backyard where my grandmother used to sit and watch the birds, David asked me something he had been wondering about for months. "Do you ever regret it?" "Cutting them off completely." I paused, considering the question honestly. Sometimes I wonder what might have happened if I had tried to work things out. But then I remember that they had countless opportunities to do the right thing. They chose greed and favoritism every single time. I did not cut them off because of one mistake. I cut them off because of a lifetime of patterns. "That makes sense," David said. "I just want to make sure you are at peace with it." "I am," I said, and I meant it. I grieve the family I wish I had, but I do not regret leaving the family I actually had. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. The party that afternoon was small but joyful. Mrs. Chin brought homemade dumplings. My friend Sarah from the senior center brought wine. David's sister came with her family, including 2 adorable kids who loved exploring the big old house. As I watched everyone laughing and talking in my grandmother's garden, I realized this was what family was supposed to feel like. Not obligation and guilt and walking on eggshells, but genuine warmth and mutual respect and choosing to show up for each other. "Speech. Speech," Sarah called out as we gathered around the birthday cake. I stood up, feeling slightly self-conscious, but also grateful for this moment. "I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for accepting me, for making this house feel like a home." 2 years ago, I learned a hard lesson about blood family not always being real family. But you all have shown me that real family is the people who see you, value you, and choose you. So thank you for choosing me. There were hugs and tears and laughter, and as I blew out the candles on my cake, I did not wish for my old family back. I wished for the strength to keep building this new life, this chosen family, this future I was creating for myself. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home and David had left with promises to see me the next day, I sat alone in my grandmother's favorite chair in the sunroom. The house was quiet, peaceful in a way it never was when I was growing up in my parents' home. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from my mother, *Happy birthday, Alice. I hope you are well. We miss you. Please consider giving us another chance. Love, Mom. I stared at the message for a long moment. Part of me wanted to respond, to explain once again why I had made the choices I made. But I knew it would be pointless. They had not changed. This message was not about acknowledging their mistakes or taking responsibility. It was about easing their guilt and trying to manipulate me back into their lives on their terms. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Then I opened my photos and looked at a picture from that afternoon. Me, surrounded by my chosen family, genuinely smiling in front of the house my grandmother had fought to give me. That was my answer. That was my life now. And I was not going back. 3 months later, something unexpected happened. I received a call from Mr. Morrison. Alice, I have some news. Your Uncle James, your mother's brother, has filed a motion to contest the will after all. My heart sank. I thought that was settled. Aunt Susan said they were dropping all claims. Your parents did. But apparently, James never signed the settlement agreement. He is claiming that he was entitled to 50% of Eleanor's estate under the original will, and he wants it. I felt the old panic rising. Can he do that? After all this time? He can try, Mr. Morrison said carefully. But given all the evidence we have, I am not worried about him winning. However, it does mean we will have to go through a court process. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it. The idea of facing my family in court, of having my grandmother's life and legacy picked apart by lawyers, was daunting. But I had come too far to back down now. Yes, I said firmly. I am prepared. Grandma left me that house because she wanted me to have it. I am not letting anyone take it away. That is what I like to hear, Mr. Morrison said. We will fight this, and we will win. The court case took 4 months to resolve. Uncle James hired an aggressive lawyer who tried every tactic to invalidate my grandmother's updated will. They claimed she had been unduly influenced by me. They claimed she lacked mental capacity. They even tried to argue that the recordings she had made were somehow falsified. But Mr. Morrison was prepared for everything. He presented the medical evaluations proving my grandmother's competence. He showed the court the detailed documentation she had kept of her decision-making process. He played the video where she clearly and articulately explained her wishes. And then he called me to the witness stand. Ms. Richardson, he said gently, can you tell the court about your relationship with your grandmother? I told them everything. The 12 years of caregiving. The sacrifices I had made. The promises my grandmother had given me. The way my parents had used me and then tried to steal my inheritance. Uncle James's lawyer tried to make me look like a gold digger, like someone who had manipulated an elderly woman for financial gain. But the evidence spoke for itself. My grandmother's own words, recorded and documented, made it clear that she had made her decision freely and with full awareness of what she was doing. The judge's ruling came down on a Friday afternoon. I sat in the courtroom, David holding my hand, as the judge read her decision. Having reviewed all the evidence presented, she said, this court finds that Eleanor Hastings's will dated March 15th, 3 years prior to her death, is valid and enforceable. The will clearly represents Mrs. Hastings's wishes, and there is no credible evidence of undue influence or lack of capacity. The estate will be distributed according to the terms of that will. I had won. Completely and definitively. Uncle James stormed out of the courtroom without looking at me. I later learned through the family grapevine that he was furious, that he blamed me for turning the family against each other, that he had cut off contact with my parents for not warning him about the updated will. I felt no satisfaction in his anger, just relief that it was finally, truly over. That night, David and I celebrated quietly at home. You did it, he said, raising his glass of wine. You fought for what was rightfully yours, and you won. Grandma did most of the work, I said. I just had to be brave enough to follow through. That took courage too, he pointed out. A lot of people would have just accepted what their parents told them, tried to keep the peace. You stood up for yourself. As we sat on the front porch, watching fireflies dance in the summer darkness, I thought about how much had changed since that terrible 20th birthday. I had lost a family but gained a home. I had discovered betrayal, but also loyalty from people I had not expected. I had learned that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most profound freedom. I have been thinking, David said, breaking the comfortable silence. My lease is up in 2 months. And I spend most of my time here anyway. What would you think about me moving in? I looked at him, this kind, patient man who had supported me through the legal battle without ever making me feel like a burden. I think Grandma would approve, I said with a smile. She always said this house was meant to be filled with love. Is that a yes? That is definitely a yes. The following year brought more changes, all of them positive. David moved in, and we made the house truly ours while still honoring my grandmother's memory. I finished my social work degree and got a job at a nonprofit that helps seniors navigate end-of-life care and estate planning. My own experience made me uniquely qualified to help others avoid the kind of family conflicts I had endured. On what would have been my grandmother's 85th birthday, I planted a rose garden in the backyard, each bush representing a year of her life. As I worked the soil, David brought out lemonade and sat on the porch steps, watching. "She would be so proud of you," he said. "I hope so," I replied. "I am trying to live up to the gift she gave me." "You are doing more than that. You are thriving." He was right. Against all odds, despite my family's attempts to break me down and steal my future, I was thriving. The house on Maple Street had become a sanctuary, a place where I felt safe and valued. My career was fulfilling. My relationship with David was built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. And I had created a chosen family of friends and neighbors who celebrated my successes and supported me through challenges. Sometimes I still thought about my parents and Marcus. I wondered if they had learned anything from losing me. I wondered if they ever acknowledged that their actions had consequences. But those thoughts no longer consumed me. They were just occasional ripples on the surface of a life that had become calm and purposeful. The only contact I had with my biological family came through occasional updates from mutual acquaintances. I heard that my parents had downsized to a smaller house, the financial strain of the legal battles and lost inheritance taking its toll. I heard that Marcus was still struggling to establish himself independently, bouncing from job to job. And I heard that family gatherings were tense and uncomfortable, everyone aware that the elephant in the room was my absence. I felt a distant sadness about it, but no guilt. I had not destroyed our family. They had done that all by themselves through years of favoritism, exploitation, and, ultimately, betrayal. I had simply refused to continue being their scapegoat. 2 years after the court case, on my 24th birthday, something unexpected arrived in the mail. It was a letter from Marcus, his second attempt at communication since our estrangement. Alice, asterisk. I do not expect you to read this, let alone respond. But I needed to write it anyway, asterisk. I have been in therapy for the past year. Dad's insurance finally covers it, which is ironic since he always said therapy was for weak people. Turns out I am weak. Or at least I was, asterisk. My therapist has helped me understand a lot of things. How I was enabled my whole life. How I never learned to function as an independent adult because everything was handed to me. How I participated in your abuse, even if I did not think of it that way at the time, asterisk. I know now that what our parents did to you was wrong. Not just the will thing, but everything. The way they made you responsible for grandma's care when you were just a kid. The way they dismissed your achievements and celebrated mine. The way they used you and then tried to steal from you, asterisk. I was complicit in all of it because I benefited from it, asterisk. I am not writing to ask for forgiveness or a relationship. I know I do not deserve either. I am writing because my therapist says I need to take accountability, and this is me trying to do that, asterisk. You deserved better. From all of us. And I am sorry we failed you so completely, asterisk. I hope you are happy. I hope that house is everything Grandma wanted it to be for you. And I hope someday I can be half the person you are, asterisk. Marcus, asterisk. I read the letter twice, looking for manipulation or hidden agenda. But it seemed genuine. Not an excuse, not a plea for reconciliation. Just an acknowledgement of truth. I showed it to David, who read it carefully. What do you want to do? He asked. I do not know, I admitted. Part of me wants to respond, to tell him I appreciate the accountability. But another part thinks that opening that door, even a crack, is dangerous. There is no wrong answer, David said. You get to decide what feels right for you. I thought about it for several days. Finally, I wrote a short response. Marcus, asterisk. Thank you for your letter and for taking accountability. That takes courage, asterisk. I appreciate your honesty, and I am glad you are working on yourself. That is important work, and it is not easy, asterisk. I am not ready for a relationship, and I may never be. But I want you to know that I hold no hatred toward you. I hope you continue to grow and learn. Asterisk. Take care of yourself. Asterisk. Alice asterisk. It was not forgiveness, not exactly. But it was acknowledgement. A recognition that he was trying, even if it was too late for us to have a relationship. I never heard from him again after that, and I was okay with it. I had said what needed to be said, and that chapter was closed. Life continued to unfold in beautiful, unexpected ways. David and I got engaged on the anniversary of the day I had moved into the house. We were married the following spring in the backyard, under the trees my grandparents had planted. Mrs. Chen officiated, and my chosen family filled the chairs we had set up on the lawn. As David and I exchanged vows, promising to honor and respect each other, to be partners in every sense of the word, I felt my grandmother's presence so strongly it was almost physical. She is here, Mrs. Chen whispered to me as we cut the cake later. Eleanor. She is so happy for you. I believed her. This house, this life, this love, it was everything my grandmother had wanted for me. Not just the property or the money, but the freedom to choose my own path, to build relationships based on mutual care rather than obligation, to live authentically without fear of judgment or manipulation. 3 years after cutting off my parents, I received one final communication from them. It was a letter addressed in my mother's handwriting. Alice, asterisk. I know you do not want to hear from us. I know we hurt you in ways that cannot be undone. But I needed to write this, even if you never respond, asterisk. Your father had a heart attack last month. He is okay, recovering, but it scared us both badly. It made us think about our legacy, about what we are leaving behind, asterisk. We have lost so much. We lost you. We lost the respect of our extended family. We lost our comfortable lifestyle. And worst of all, we lost the chance to know the remarkable woman you have become, asterisk. I will not make excuses. We were wrong. We favored Marcus. We used you. We tried to steal your inheritance. All of it was wrong, and all of it was our fault, asterisk. I am not asking you to forgive us or to let us back into your life. I just wanted you to know that we see it now. We understand what we did. And we are sorry, asterisk asterisk, if you ever decide you want contact with us, even limited contact, we will respect whatever boundaries you set. But if you choose never to speak to us again, we will understand that too, asterisk. We love you, Alice. We always have, even though we had a terrible way of showing it, asterisk. Mom asterisk. I read the letter multiple times, searching for manipulation. But unlike previous attempts at contact, this one felt different. Sadder. More honest. The letter of people who had finally realized what they had lost. David found me on the porch, letter in hand, tears streaming down my face. What happened? He asked, concerned. I handed him the letter. He read it silently, then sat beside me, pulling me into his arms. What do you want to do? He asked. I do not know, I sobbed. Part of me wants to respond. Part of me thinks it is too late. Part of me is still so angry. And part of me just feels sad. Sad for what could have been if they had just treated me with basic respect. All of those feelings are valid, David said gently. You do not have to decide anything right now. But I knew what I needed to do. Not for them, but for myself. A week later, I sent a response. Mom and Dad, asterisk. I received your letter. I am glad Dad is okay, asterisk. I appreciate your apology. I believe that you are sorry, and I believe that you have grown enough to understand what you did wrong. That matters, asterisk. But understanding what you did and experiencing the consequences does not erase the years of pain. It does not give me back the childhood I lost, or the education I postponed, or the relationship with Grandma that was tainted by your manipulations. Asterisk, asterisk, I have built a good life without you. A life where I am valued and respected. A life where my boundaries are honored. I cannot risk that by letting you back in, even in a limited way. The pattern was too long and too deep for me to trust that it would not repeat. Asterisk. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying anger and resentment was poisoning me, and I choose to let that go. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Asterisk. I wish you well. I hope you have learned from this experience. I hope you treat Marcus better than you treated me. I hope you spend whatever time you have left being the people you should have been all along, asterisk. But I cannot be part of your lives. That door is closed, asterisk. Take care of yourselves, asterisk. Alice, asterisk. Sending that letter felt like releasing a weight I had been carrying for years. It was not the happy ending my parents wanted, but it was the honest ending. The true ending. And for me, it was enough. Now, as I sit here today at 32 years old, looking back on everything that happened since that devastating 20th birthday, I can say with certainty that I made the right choices. Cutting off my toxic family was not easy. Standing up for my inheritance was terrifying. Building a new life from scratch was exhausting. But it was worth it. Every difficult moment, every tear, every sleepless night was worth it to get to where I am now. I live in a beautiful house filled with love and laughter. I have a career that fulfills me. I have a husband who treats me as an equal partner. I have friends who celebrate me. And I have the peace that comes from knowing I honored my grandmother's legacy and stood up for myself when it mattered most. The house on Maple Street is not just a house anymore. It is a symbol of everything I fought for: dignity, respect, autonomy, and the right to be valued for who I am, not just what I can do for others. My grandmother taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is giving someone the tools to free themselves. She gave me this house, yes, but more importantly, she gave me evidence, documentation, and the courage to fight for what was mine. And in doing so, she gave me myself. If you are watching this and you find yourself in a similar situation, being used, being dismissed, being taken for granted by your own family, please hear me. You deserve better. You do not owe your abusers forgiveness or access to your life just because they are blood relatives. Family is not about who you are related to. It is about who shows up for you, who respects you, who values you. And if your biological family cannot do that, you have every right to walk away and build something better. It will not be easy. There will be guilt and grief and moments when you question yourself. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. Real, authentic freedom to be yourself without apology. My grandmother saw that future for me. She fought to give me that future, even after her death. And I honored her gift by having the courage to claim it. So to anyone who has ever been the family scapegoat, who has ever sacrificed everything only to be betrayed, who has ever wondered if standing up for yourself is worth losing your family, it is. You are worth it. Your peace is worth it. Your future is worth it. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment about your own experiences with family boundaries. Let us support each other in choosing ourselves. Remember, you are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not wrong for walking away from people who hurt you. You are strong. You are worthy. And you deserve a life built on respect and love, not obligation and guilt. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, sometimes the best inheritance is not money or property, but the courage to live life on your own terms. This is Alice, signing off.